and the expert from Pine Rest Christian Services. Dr. Brett, let's talk about why it's good for kids to have older people in their lives.
Well, one of the things I like to talk about is family is like a blanket. And if we have parents, that's a pretty good sized blanket. When we add grandparents or grandparent-like people into that blanket, we have a bigger blanket. And kids need security. The bigger the blanket, the more we can kind of wrap them up and tuck them in.
I love that. That's that cuddly, warm, safe, protected feeling. You know, I know a lot of children have grandparents that live far away or in busy schedules that keep us from seeing our grandparents regularly or those older adults. Talk to us about why we need to make time for that.
You know, it's real important. I just heard a story the other day about a grandparent who plants a perennial garden every year for her grandchildren. So in the summer, and she lives far away from her grandchildren, in the summer, via phone calls, they talk about what's going to get planted. In the fall, she plants that plant that fall. So every year, there's another plant in her perennial garden that marks time with her grandchildren. So even though she's not able to be with them, she has a connection with them. And they can talk throughout the year about her garden. So,
I love that. So it's finding that thing that can connect you and bond you.
exactly. And all of us like to have older people that know our name. The analogy I use with adults is if your boss's boss calls you by name, it feels good. For kids, it's the same thing. If a grandparent or a grandparent-like person knows your name, it helps you feel important and feel good and feel secure.
You know, we have a lot of older adults in West Michigan that maybe their grandchildren don't live near them or their grandchildren are grown up. Talk to us about the importance and the value for them to go back into some schools and spend some time reading or finding a family in their church that they can befriend. Talk about that.
Exactly. Boston College just came out with a study recently, and they're looking at intergenerational relationships. They looked at a period of 20 years, and they found that older adults who had a healthy connection with a grandchild or someone of grandchild age had less symptoms of depression, but only when they were giving of themselves back to that child and not just taking from the children. So it's a lot about being able to give back to that generation.
And that's sharing.
Exactly.
All right, my final question, you know, there can sometimes be tension between in-laws and mother-in-laws, but we've got these grandkids in the middle, and I'd like you to talk to parents who are like, well, you know, they feed my kids cheese curls on Thursday nights, and we just don't do cheese curls, so we're not going to see grandma anymore.
Oh, it's a great question because we're so busy in some respects that we rely on other people, and it is so nice to have grandparents involved. But really clarifying those roles ahead of time is important. So it is important that parents and grandparents talk about what is my role going to be as a grandparent, so I don't step on the parents' toes, okay? But at the same time so I can have a meaningful relationship with my grandkids.
So it's really being respectful of the parents' rules, but parents may be giving a little too. It's a compromise.
It's a compromise. It's knowing that boundary, being able to work with each other around that boundary. And it's actually a good role model for the kids.
From your perspective, final question, as an adult, when you think about grandparents, give me like 5 words that a grandparent can pour into the life of a little person.
Oh, wow. One is a sense of connection to family history, which again is really important. Another is that sense of belonging. A third is that sense of worth. A grandparent can find those things in the child that are so helpful for that child's self-esteem. So maybe that's 3 words, but those are
Those are great tips.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, and we appreciate your insight into grandparents. Thank you.
Thank you.